down below in the comments.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Let's see. Hi, Angel. Thank you so much for being here. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, let's see. Let me get my live going on Instagram. How is everyone? Okay. Woo! All right. JCL. Hi, Quisha. I follow you on Instagram. This will be the first time I caught a live of yours. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, gosh. Wait, no, stop. Oh, Lord. Did I do the wrong? Y'all bear with me. Oh, my goodness. I think I did the wrong thing, child. Let me see. Hey, 02122. Hello, hello. I'm trying to make sure I am live because I want people on Instagram to catch this too. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me tell y'all, let me give y'all a little personal situation that is happening. Again, I don't know if y'all remember, but a couple months ago, I broke out and had like these, I know Michelle, Chuck's wife, I know she remembers because I was calling her. She's an esthetician. I was calling her like, oh my God, something is happening to my skin. I have another breakout of that same thing. So you can see I have like this dark spot here on my lip. And then I have a like under my lip here. I'm not going to show you because don't want to see that. But I'm having an allergic. I think it's either it's stress or like a seasonal allergic reaction to something. But yeah, it is back. Same spot, same exact thing. Yes. Wrench lives matter. 02122. Okay, so let me just update everybody on Instagram. Grab a pencil and paper because you're gonna want to take notes. There comes a time when we have to stop just depending on the government, like with the schools and changing the school boards. We have to start taking matters into our own hands, which as conservatives, that's what we should be doing anyway. So give me 1 second. We're going to be talking about how to create mentally strong children. Let me fix this. Okay, that's better. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. I have resources that I can help you guys with. We've just got to take matters into our own hands when it comes to our children. They are the next generation. We cannot just sit by and just kind of think like, okay, changing the school board, okay, that's fine. That is great. People will do that. But, homeschooling your children, y'all know that's what I believe is the best option, because these people, these communists, they're not going to stop. They're not going to quit. And so we have to make sure that we arm our kids with the right information. So if they happen to be in these public indoctrination camps, y'all know that's what I call them, if they happen to be there, oh my God, this thing looks so freaking crazy, but I'm so subconscious. Jasmine Ramos says, hi everyone, I don't have kids yet, but I'm very concerned about the children, my future kids, as you should be. And this is still good for you, Jasmine, because what we're going to be talking about and what you learn, you can pass on to your nieces and nephew. You can pass on to other kids until you have your own children. You can exactly. You can pass it on to other parents who have children, so they can pass it on to their kids. And so we're going to be talking about how to create mentally strong children. So let me just give you guys a bit of history. Those of you who've been watching me for a while, you might know, but just for people who don't know, let me just give you a bit of a background. I'm a 20-year-old college student, so this hits home for me, but Georgia Southern University isn't particularly leftist. You know what? Okay, so that's a really good point, JCL, because I hear that a lot, that like, oh, the school that I'm in, they're not really leftist. They're not pushing this ideology. We're going to talk about why it's still important to be mindful, even if you aren't quote unquote in a school that's pushing these communist stuff, because it is really everywhere. We're going to talk about that. Let me just give you a little bit of background for those who don't know me and my story. So, hi Unifier. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is a really important topic. Please share this out and like the video and do all those things. And subscribe. Right after the 2016 election, I was having a conversation with a close family member. We were talking about BLM. It prompted me to do some research about shootings and all those kinds of things. I started to research, found Dr. Thomas Sowell, saw that, learned about the left and learned about Democrat, all that stuff. But the real transformational moment came when I was sitting on my couch and the Lord spoke to my heart and told me that my skin color had become an idol in my life. Transformative, changed my life, felt like 10,000 pounds had been lifted off of me. I had never felt so free. And so once I got into understanding actually what I was really dealing with, who we were really actually dealing with, like with the communists, and all the things that they were throwing at us, it is very concerning. And so in 2020, my oldest daughter was asked, first day of 8th grade, she was asked what pronouns she wanted to go by. So this is the very beginning of what started me on the education thing. She was asked what pronouns she wanted to go by. I emailed the teacher, asked her why she was asking my daughter about this. She never responded. So I told my daughter, I said, be vigilant, pay attention. So my daughter recorded a conversation, same teacher that was having in the classroom. The teacher was telling the children, she was asking the children, oh, Johnny, as an African-American child, how are you oppressed? Oh, Sally, as an Asian child, she was literally putting oppression upon the children. And what many people, people saw me go viral, and what they did not know was in 2019, before anybody was even talking about critical race theory, before anybody was ever even talking about, communism being in the schools and all the woke stuff, and nobody was really talking about it, I had come across Vodi Bakum and Neil Shenby, and they were talking about critical race theory. And it was honestly, I just nerd out about certain things. Like, it was just interesting to me. Like, I was just like, oh, this is really weird. Like, why are people doing this? I did not have I had never heard of critical race theory. I had never even knew what, like, I had heard of communism, but I didn't really even know like what any of that really meant. And so as I started to read about it, it was just interesting to me. But when I heard it in my daughter's classroom, where the teacher was literally dividing the children by oppression and oppressor, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I know exactly what this is. This is critical race theory. So around the same time, Governor DeSantis was having a hearing at the Florida Board of Education, which it happened to be, this was divine. It was truly divine. It happened to be in my hometown. I said, I'm going down there, say my piece. I wrote a speech, literally just sitting in the back of the room. They called my name. I said my piece. I had no idea, that, what would happen. I was just literally just trying to be helpful. And the governor retweets the speech. It goes viral. I start doing media. And then that was June of 2021. In October of 2021, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were told that the FBI was coming after parents. We were called domestic terrorists. Let me know if you guys remember that in the chat. There were threat tags put on parents. And literally just for going to school boards and saying, don't teach my kids to be racist. That's all. We don't want you to teach our kids to be racist. We don't want, hey, Jamie, we don't want our kids to learn about gender ideology. Like, we don't, and at that point in time, like, the gender thing, we were just like learning that was even a thing that was happening in school. And so I was like, Jamie says you're still tagged. Yeah. My friend called, I was speaking in Virginia, in Loudoun County, Virginia. And my friend called me that morning and she said, Quisha, the FBI has come to Jacksonville. I was like, you're kidding. And I could not believe that my government, the United States government at that, was literally sending the government after parents. It was mind blowing. So when they asked me on that stage, what did I think we should do? I said we needed a mass exodus from the public school system. The room gave me a standing ovation for like 20 seconds. And I was just like, if y'all go watch video, I'm just like holding the mic like, wow. I just could not believe how much that resonated with people. Hey, Caitlin. It was truly astonishing. So I was like, this is something that people are interested in, and then they need help doing, because that's one of the things that I got questioned about the most. What do I do? How can I help, and what do I do? So that is what we're going to talk about. What can we do? So we can rely on the school board, which, yes, we should be getting good school board members, getting the bad ones off and putting good ones on. We should absolutely continue to do that. We should be homeschooling. It is my belief that homeschool is the best way to go, because once that door closes in those classrooms, we have no idea of what they are teaching to our kids. Right? We don't know. How many parents, and put this in the chat, how many parents checked book before 2020, before we got the peek inside of the classroom? How many parents was checking book bags? When your kid came home from school, how many of you were checking book bags and checking homework? You were an involved parent. Hey, Quisha, it's a Bible a day keeps the devil away. Oh, oh, okay. Hi. I was, because my mom always did. Jamie says, yes. Like, I was one of those parents. I thought I knew what was going on, But these devils, speaking of devils, Everton's daughters, they are slick. They right, Angel? Exactly. We were doing what we thought we needed to do to keep tabs on these people, to make sure that our children were getting what they needed, right? But once we got that peek inside of the classroom, we were like, "Oh, this don't come home this is not coming home in the book bag." You know, that conversation that my daughter recorded would have never reached me as a parent. It would have never reached you as a parent. It would have never reached any of us. So that is why I'm so like, we have to take matters into our own hands. The first step, in my opinion, getting your kids out of the classrooms, homeschooling your children. I understand everybody does not live in a state that has school choice, and a robust school choice at that. And everybody doesn't have the opportunity to pull their kids out of school. I understand. That's why we're going to arm our children with the information that they need to be ready, to be successful, to be critical thinkers, to be ready to recognize this communist agenda when it approaches them. Y'all, this is just something that is really heavy on my heart. And I'm like, you know what? I need to start teaching parents to do what I did. Because if you can't get your kid out of the classroom, at the very least, you can start you can start to deprogram them until you can. So let's just start with that. So the first thing is, you're going to have to get, I wrote it down as a God-like mental upgrade. You're going to have to mentally upgrade yourself. Detach your mind. Detach your mind from the romantic, the idea that the public school system is something good. You're going to have to mentally upgrade yourself, because I find that we have this, like, so one of the first things, if you ever tell somebody, if you're talking about homeschooling or something like that, that one of the first things that I hear people say is, I went to a public school and I was fine. But do you understand that within the first decade that public schools existed, the education declined in the first decade. So we went from the one-room schoolhouse, right? We went from the one-room schoolhouse where nobody was in a compulsory mass education. No, we weren't doing that. Public school is relatively new in the United States of America. We were doing the one-room schoolhouse. After when the mass compulsory education started, within one decade, those fourth graders that they tested, their intellect, their education had declined. So it has never done well. It is never, the public school system, the mass compulsory public education system has never done well as a whole. I'm not saying that there aren't instances where children do well. And certainly the closer we were to those one-room schoolhouses and things like that, of course, children still did better than they do today. But as we can see, it is completely deteriorated. These kids do not know basic math. They do not know basic reading. They cannot read at the third grade level. When you, the marker is by third grade, you should know how to read. And then in fourth grade, you should be able to start interpreting what you're reading. But they can't even read. And this is on purpose. So just a little history. Let me just chime in with the chat a little bit. Miss Jamie says, I was able to move my kids to a charter school, and it's been amazing. What a difference. And they are very involved in church and Sunday school. School choice, the ability to choose is so important. But our public school system became a mass compulsory. They were if you don't send your kids to school, the government will come knock on your door, and you can have you could be fine, you will be in trouble in some kind of way by the United States, by the government. It is compulsory. You cannot just choose. They are making you participate in a government program in the United States of America. Like, we don't think about it like that. That's why I say you have to decouple your mind from what this institution is. It is they are forcing you to learn their stuff. That is not a good thing. Okay, let me just chime in here with the YouTube chat and see what's going on. 02122 says educators are hiding kids' quote gender identity from parents who absolutely are. In fact, where's my where is it? Anyway, I had a teacher actually slid to me the Duval County LGBTQ guide, the support guide, where they were literally, it says in there, you are not to tell the parents about a child's gender identity. That's what it said. And I took it on Fox News, and I was like, hey, alert. They are hiding this from you parents. Then they took it down. The superintendent, she's no longer there. She took it down and said, I don't know how that in there, because parents were not supposed to see it. But thank God for that teacher who slid it to me on the low. And we were able to get it out into the media to tell. And this is in Florida, y'all. This is in Florida, where we do have a very robust system. I wish I had it so I could show you, because it's a trip. Is that thing? It might be in my bedroom, but yeah. So she took it down, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know how I get there." Mind you, she signed the front page of the doggone booklet. Okay, she signed it. Crazy. So, oh yes, Jasmine. I thank God that teacher did what he did, because we would have never known. We would have had the proof. It was right there in writing. Do not show parents. Do not tell parents. Anyway, that's why I'm saying we have to decouple our minds from what this system is. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who do not know, the American public schooling, mass compulsory school system was imported from Prussia, a country that doesn't even exist anymore. They were trying to find a way to control soldiers who were unruly. Go ahead, man. I get it. Sorry, y'all. I ordered some food. Too bad Blanche and Chuck and Chad aren't here, because they would have some words for me about ordering food. And it's wings at that. Don't come for me. Yeah, close the door. But it was imported from Prussia, right? So they created this system. They wanted to figure out, how do we minimize what's his name? No, single, okay. No ring. They were trying to, they didn't want the kids to, they didn't want the soldiers to be thinking on their own. They didn't want them to critically think. They wanted to dumb them down, kill their imagination, and make them minions of the state. Basically, put them in front of, we put an expert in front of you, and you do exactly what And your job is to do exactly what that person tells you to do. Go ahead. That's what the American compulsory education system was. That's where it came from. So it was never meant to educate. And so it was never meant to educate. So that's why we have to make sure that we don't romanticize, that we have a clear understanding of what this public education system is and what it is not, and exactly what we're dealing with. Because unless and until we understand exactly what we're dealing with, we're not going to address it the right way. There's still going to be kind of like this thing in the back of your mind that's like, well, maybe, possibly. No, the system, this system was not meant to educate your kids. Okay, so Quisha, so you're gonna be like, okay, so what do I do then? What do I do when this system was not meant to educate my children? You're going to have to step up your game and get them educated yourself. Now, one of the first things that I started doing is I started to basically deprogram my children every day. Yes, Melinda. OMG. That's why I always got in trouble for questioning the teachers in school. If any of you have a child who's curious, I was the curious kid. I always got in trouble for talking. I literally remember my mother going toe to toe with my English teacher because she literally said that I smiled too much and I talked too much. I heard talk too much my whole entire life. Smile too much. Never heard that one be a complaint. But I remember, Melinda, just like you, I got a question. My oldest is like that too. We got questions. That was me. And you will notice that questions are not really encouraged in these systems. Yep, Jamie, your daughter too. Yes. Yes. So Marcus, yes, you must educate your kids. This system they will not educate it will not. We're supposed to question everything. That is right, Pat Daddy. You're supposed to question everything. Teach your kids to question everything. 02122 says public schools equals public fools. Stimulated student says my teachers were far from experts. I knew it back then. You know, if you are raised to think, you will be able to poke holes in your teachers. But that is the last thing they want you to do, because if you can diminish that role in the class, if a child can diminish what that teacher is, how that teacher is seen, other students will start to question too, because it is a natural way for us to learn. You have to question. In fact, it is scientifically incongruent. On one hand, they teach you, like when you're in science class, to question. And then on the other hand, in that very same class, if your question doesn't really kind of, if in their mind it doesn't line up with what the lesson is, or if it doesn't, if you're learning something and it takes your mind to like another place, you're like, okay, well, it's on topic, but it may not be directly because of just how your mind works. But you're trying to learn how you learn, they will shut you down. They will. It is not an environment that is made for questions. It's just not. And so that is why we have a lot of kids who do not thrive in these indoctrination camps. You're supposed, like, think about it for a second. What child learns by just sitting still and having someone spit out information to them? Can anybody answer that? Like, what child sits when children, before we send our children to these indoctrination camps, they tend to, like, when we're playing with them, we're playing with blocks, we're teaching them letters and colors and things like that. They got to touch it. They want to touch it. They want to put it in their mouths. They want to play with it. They want to see what it do. If I drop it, y'all ever been, all the parents, you ever had your kid drop something And then they look, and then they're waiting to see, like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? Okay, what's going to happen when I drop this toy? And then when you go to pick it up, they drop it again. They're learning. They're literally learning. You're watching them learn action and reaction, cause and effect, and it's why it's one of the things that as parents, when we're starting to learn about our kids, they'll say, don't react when your child does XYZ. Why do they tell you that? Because your kid is learning, oh, if I do this, my parent is going to react this way. Anyway, the point of what I'm saying is that your children they thrive better, they learn better in an environment where they can actually move around and touch and experiment with things in their environment for them to learn. I say, simulated student says, I heard a quote today, better to have unanswered questions than unquestioned answers. Oh, that is so good. That is so good. I'm going to pin that. Better to have unanswered questions than unquestioned answers. That is so good. Wow. Yes. Melinda says, I would get a quote, unsatisfactory grades, but I couldn't understand why. My behavior was not satisfactory. Wow. Janny JT says, all by design, poor school policy. It literally is all by design. Pat Daddy says, no child should be subjugated to learn what may or may not be historically accurate. Right, Everton's daughter, right? That's really good, right? Yeah, that's a great quote. Thank you so much for that, simulated students. But that is the truth. Children are meant to human beings. We all have our different learning styles, but for the most part, human beings just learn better by doing. We learn by actually doing the thing. You ever started like a job or something and you're like somebody's explaining it to you, and in your mind you're like, okay, once I actually do it, then it'll actually make sense. I gotta actually do the thing, and then the process will click for me. It's just how we learn as human beings. Like, it's just one of those things. Jamie says, I was always in trouble for talking and asking questions, always saying this doesn't make sense. When you start to understand the system, I'm telling you, like, it just clicks in your mind. You're like, oh my God, I was not crazy. But now our minds have been trained to silence our voices, to not ask questions, because we went through this whole system for about 13 years of not being encouraged to question. Don't question. And then when you are giving an answer, if you don't really want to answer the question, you're just allowed to, if you don't do it how they want you to do it, you will they will fail you. It's not there is right, sit there and shut up. Like, you're not encouraged to, you're just not encouraged to think. That's the bottom line. So anyway, so you have to deprogram your children. So how did I deprogram my children? So my children today, they are Christians. They're strong Christians. Like, they can provide a defense for their faith. Like, not like, Christian as in, oh yeah, like we just go to church, but I have no clue about that. No, my children can provide defenses for their faith. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Hi, Quisha. I just thought I would pop in and say Merry Christmas and not Happy Holidays. So I hope you have a Merry Christmas and God bless you. Thank you so much. God bless your family, as you and your family as well. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. What I would do is, first of all, once God took those shackles off of my mind, I stopped saying certain things around my children. I stopped having like that race talk of like, oh, we're black, so XYZ. Oh, they're white, so XYZ. So I stopped the race talk. That when you're talking the race stuff over your children, this is what God revealed to me. You're speaking curses over your children. Why? Because God never meant for us to look at each other through the lens of race. He never meant it's almost like looking at people through the lens of hair. Like, oh, I'm only going to talk to this person because they have dark hair. I'm only going to talk to people who have black hair. I'm not going to talk to people who have blonde hair. Like that's how stupid it is to judge people by and to, you know, have these race conversations. Like, you just do not, that's stupid. It's just dumb. Let's see. How do you get them theologically sound? I had to learn the faith the hard way. I will answer that. And Stimulated Student says, I was an engineering major, so for me it was necessary, but I don't know why a non-STEM major needs to. Oh, you guys are having a different conversation. Okay. Bible a day, Keith always say, yes, defending the faith is critical. It really is, because if y'all been to college, it seems like, I don't know how they do this, but the devil like literally hunts down the Christians and will challenge your faith on day one. Like, oh yeah, you're a Christian. Why are you a Christian? Why are you a Christian? So what I did, and if you don't have a defense, oh, they will break you down. You will be out here worshiping rocks. Okay. You'll be on your knees worshiping rocks and doing all kind of stuff, child. You will be out here lost, worshiping crystals and praying to stuff that God made, child. You will be screwed. But so I would ask my children. So first of all, I had to arm myself. I had a great spiritual father. And so he introduced me to Christian apologetics at a very when I was like 19. So I knew Christian apologetics. So I had that as a foundation. So if you don't know Christian apologetics, I would highly suggest you start looking some of these people up. So the person that I went to, one of the first people that I had heard about, like who were putting out videos and stuff, was Ravi Zacharias. I know people he's no longer here. I know people might have a problem with it, but he was very good at what he did. Ravi Zacharias, Frank Turek is another great one. Those are probably the two main ones that I went to. I would listen to atheists debate Christians. That's another great way. I would make my children watch atheists debate Christians. I would, and when we would read, this was in the early stages, when we would read the Bible, I would pause and ask them questions. Now, this is also what I did when my children were still in public school, and I knew I needed to start deprogramming them. So I would question them. I would probe them with open-ended questions and let them think about the answers. Like one of the conversations I remember, my daughter, my oldest daughter, was talking about, like, somehow abortion had come up. I think it was either abortion or like the gender stuff. And basically, like her thought was, she was like, I was like, well, what do you think about that? I ask that question all the time. What do you think about that? So you need to ask them, what do they think about the situation, to get a baseline of where they're at. So from there, this is also how I knew that the public school system was not doing what it needed to do, because her logic, her progression of logic, it was not this is like, midway 8th grade, 9th grade. It wasn't where I thought it should be for her, because she's very smart. And so it was just one of the things that kind of alerted me, like, okay, this is not working for her, because she's smarter than this. Her answers weren't up to my satisfactory. So when what do you think about that thing? So just ask them. They'll tell you what they think. And you don't let them get away with, I don't know. Don't let them get away with, vague or just insufficient. Like, really, like, make them think. You're going to have to press them. Make them think. What? No, I want to know, what do you think about it? So when she would tell me, I think this particular time it was like, that's their business. I remember, that doesn't affect me. That's their business. I said, okay, well, what if you had a child and what, I put the situation sort of into, infuse themselves into the situation, make it real for them. Well, what if you got pregnant? Da, 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 da. How would you react? What would you do? So these were these probing, open-ended questions I would constantly ask, and I would lead them, I would help them get to a proper answer, but I wouldn't give them the answer, if that makes sense. So I would ask them questions just in a way that help them get to an answer that actually made sense. So if we were talking about uh the Bible, let's just say, because I think one of the things my daughter said, like, well, why do we have to pay for what Adam and Eve did? Okay, well, hey, right wing angel, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Like, why do we have, as Christians, why do we have to pay for what Adam and Eve did? Well, one of the first questions I would think was, well, whenever you do something, doesn't there have to be a consequence? Yes, okay. Well, there has to be a consequence. There can be negative consequences and positive consequences. So, we would have those back and forth. And then it was like, well, Adam and Eve, are they just one species? No, Adam and Eve they're not just one species. What are they? They're the human species. They're the human race. Okay. So when God created them, wasn't every man and woman in Adam? Oh, yeah. Every man and woman was in Adam. Okay. Well, if every man and woman was in Adam, God was judging humanity. It's not that he was judging just Adam and Eve, he was judging humanity. And so these types of probing conversations would help them use their mind, because they're not getting this in school. They're not getting to think a bit deeper about how we're able to think. They're not getting the opportunity to think. And so you have to vocalize the truth with your kids often. And particularly if they are still in these public indoctrination camps, you have to do this every day. Yeah, parents, listen. The next generation is literally like it is. We are hanging on by a thread. You have to arm your kids to stand up against this communist agenda, because that is where all of this stuff comes from. I know y'all hear me talk about it a lot, but the critical race theory, the gender ideology, even, like all of these things, they come from a communistic mindset. It comes from the enemy. The enemy is using, Marx and these people and Gramsci and all these people who believe these things to push this agenda, to tear down your faith, tear down you morally, and then infuse their thing on you. And when you don't have morals, when you don't know how to think, you are just wide open for whatever can come in. It's just an easy opening. It's actually very clever what the enemy has done. Parents, you're going to have to put the phone down. You can't binge watch whatever shows. I don't even know, whatever shows. You're gonna have to start talking to your kids. Just a little another side note. This is really, I'm being really honest right now. A couple years, like before I pulled them out, I did not particularly like my children. I did not enjoy being around them, because they didn't seem like they were mine anymore. Like the things that they would say, The way that they would act, it's like, who, I did not raise you like this. The things that they were into, the things that I was just like, ew. Like, who are you? I did not raise you like this. And I know we're not supposed to say that. I know that's probably a bad thing to say, but I did not enjoy them. Now, oh my gosh, I love being around I enjoy them. We have these amazing conversations. They're back to their normal selves. They are like my children again. It's like once I pulled them out, all of that crap just started falling off of them. All of that. So that's another part of it too. Like when they're out of that environment, it's just all of it. It just stopped. It just starts to fall away. Spartan 300. Hi, Quisha from Ireland. Hello. Oh my gosh. We've gone international, darling. Hello, Ireland. Less drama. Yes, Jamie. It is like a miracle. It's like because y'all know we work hard when they're little kids. You're instilling the values. Don't do this. Don't say that. Be like this. And you're like, you're molding and making these little people. They are so cute and wonderful. And then they go into these schools and they come home and it don't even take long. You're like, where did you get that word from? What the heck? Like, what you don't even recognize them. Anyway. So, asking questions, vocalizing the truth with your kids. Like, because I know a lot of times we think these things, but we might not say them. We're like, oh, Sarah, Johnny, we're not ready for these conversations. They're ready. They are ready for these deeper conversations. I wish I would have started earlier. I would say a good age to start like getting them to think and trying to get them, I would say like 7, like 6 or 7, because they probably can read at this point. They're starting to, starting to think a bit more and stuff like that. Like they're starting to experience a little bit more stuff in the world. So I would say 7. What do you guys think? What do you think is a good age? Now you're gonna make it 8. You're gonna make your questions age appropriate. But I'm just saying, like, I wish I would have started earlier about Christian topics, and because we're a Christian family, topics about what they think about these heavier things, like make it where it's palatable for them. But what age would you guys recommend? Let's see. Jamie says it's funny that I ask my kids when they tell me about a new friend, I'm like, are they conservative? Okay. Like, what's their family? No, that's really important. I don't. Okay, so Pat Daddy says 7-year-old, 7 is good. Stimulated student says depends on the child. Okay, I agree with that too, because I have my youngest daughter is a special needs child. So of course I did not do that with her, but I mean, for a quote unquote typical child, for me, I think around 7, just kind of, because if they're in the public school, if they're in the system, they're being exposed to this stuff. They are already being taught ideas of evolution. They might not be being taught the theory, but they're being taught that in some way you came from, slime, and it's, you came from nothing. Nothing created something. That is, I'm sorry, no shade. If you are, I have friends that are atheists. We get along. They know how I feel. I know how they feel. But I'm sorry, if you believe that nothing created something, that is stupid. That is dumb. And we need to be teaching our kids, when they hear this kind of talk, that don't make no sense. How in what world, even scientifically, in what world did nothing create something? How, Sway? How? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So I'm just like, yeah, we need to be having these conversations, because it helps them to start to critically think. Even the old mathematicians, they believed in a God. They did, like the Newton and Einstein. They believed in God. They weren't stupid. Yes. That's asking about the chicken or the egg. What came first? Let's see. It had to come from somewhere. That's right. Students, I'll say this: children are way sharper than we give them credit for. Out underestimating of their intelligence slows down their development. That is true. And here's the next and last thing that I want to talk about. That is right. 021. The scientific method was invented by a Christian. I forget who, but I know it comes from the Bible. The process I know comes from the Bible. We have coddled our children way too much. Just to piggyback on what Stimulated Students just said, we think that our children, and Chad Jackson has actually talked about this idea of adolescence and how it comes from, it's like a made up thing. I would really advise you guys to you can Google this guy. His name is John Taylor Gatto. This is where I learned a lot of the history, and it took me on a deep dive of the public school system. He was a 30-year New York City public school teacher he was 5 years in a row teacher of the year. He resigned like a boss on the op-ed pages of the Wall Street Journal. But he talks about this idea of adolescence, and he goes into how very successful people typically have some experience where their minds are children. When they are children, they are exposed to some type of experience that makes them kind of grow up faster. So, for instance, Richard Brunson, and he talks about this in this book, and it's called Dumbing Us Down. It's by John Taylor Gatto. I would advise anybody to get it. It is very insightful. He's written some other books as well. This is a really good one. He talks about Richard Brunson, how when he was, I believe he was 7 years old, 5 or 7 years old. He's from he's British. He was dropped off. His mother. They're like driving in the car. His mother stops the car and she says, "If I dropped you off, could you get home?" And he says yes. She left him there and he found his way home. He says, "From that moment on, I knew that there was nothing I couldn't do." Do you know how empowering that is? How all like these limiting mindsets that are put upon us through the public school system, sometimes through our parents. You can't do this, you can't do that, all of these things. He knew that there was nothing that he couldn't do. Could you imagine if you knew that there was nothing that you couldn't do? Telling your kids, instilling that. Even the Bible said, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." God has literally told us, don't limit your mind. Don't have a mindset that keeps you not thinking. Don't have a mindset that keeps you from, growing and thinking that you can't do something. Because when you start to tell yourself these things, it's not just that thing it starts to affect other things around you as well. That's the problem with keeping their experiences so limited. Now, I'm not saying in 2023 to go drop your kid off up the block or somewhere and say, "Get home." I'm not saying that. I am saying, though, that we need to teach our children that they can do anything, but they have to be able to think in order to even have an imagination to explore what they even can do. Does that make sense? Like, if these kids can't think, how are they even going to have an imagination to go beyond anything that is kind of in the world that they already see? How are they going to go beyond that? How are they going to be an innovator? How are they going to be the next whomever if they're not thinking beyond their environment? So this is the beginning stages of how we guard our children from these communists, because the communist mindset is dumb. It is literally telling you not to be an individual. It is literally telling you to go against everything in nature. It tells you to go against what is natural. We have a natural sense to be unique because we are uniquely and wonderfully made. Like, we have a natural sense to be that. And they're like, no, conform to what everybody else is doing. Everybody's got to be in the whole in the group and just do what everybody else is doing. Don't go your own way. Don't figure out another. Just do what everybody else is doing. Miss Jamie says, still got to teach kids to be scrappy. Use your brain to question. Absolutely. You still have to teach your children that, to figure it out, to be able to think so they can figure it out. There are so many times, I'm sorry. 02122 says communism and human nature go together like salt and slugs. Exactly. Spartan 300 says, check out the Underground History of American Education, Volume 1, an intimate investigation into the prison of modern schooling by John Taylor Gatto. I'm telling you, John Taylor Gatto's work will bless your life. It will bless your life. Thank you for that, Spartan 300. But it definitely will. It definitely will. Let's see. But I just wanted to 02122 says Karl Marx said, kill everyone whose values contradict the state's values. So all religious people are dissidents. That's right. There was no room for thinking for Karl Marx. There was no room for religion, according to Marx. You are a degenerate. LAHCPA, you are spot on. Thank you so much. Ask questions. Yes. Jamie says Christmas gifts, gotta get these books. Yes, absolutely. Get these books. Get them in your reading routine, because it will really open your mind to what really happened, who was all behind it, because some of these people that were behind it, we talk about they're so great and wonderful in society, and I don't know if they didn't know it at the time. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I do know it was bad. Jamie says that you are amazing. Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having this discussion. Yes, I'm going to talk about this more, because I started thinking, my children I'm so proud of them, and they are just doing so well. And I listen to how they talk with their friends. If I just can share a story with you guys, my oldest daughter, so I don't want to blow up her spot, but she has some friends, and she was thinking that she needed to separate herself from these people. And when I was asking her, why did she think that? And she was like, well, because I don't feel like we're really bringing out the best of each other. I think, maybe I need to go and, learn some more about myself, and maybe, they need to go and do something. And I'm just like, you're thinking that at 17? Like, I was not thinking that. Like, I was not like, I think I need to separate myself from these ratchet people, because, and not necessarily that they're ratchet, but I'm just saying, like, I think I need to separate myself from these people because I need to do some introspection. I'm just like, yes, Mom, you did that. So yes, it was just so amazing. Like, I listened to them and I'm like, wow. But they weren't having these conversations a few years ago. They weren't really thinking. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long to start to instill these values and this critical thinking and this way of being curious again. This girl was walking around here reading her history book for fun. I'm telling you, it's like this can be your babies. Your babies can do this too. They can do this too. I'm putting together a course for parents so they can share this with their children. So it'll be much more in depth. It'll have like, steps and everything. This is what you say. I'm going to have a QR thing so you can download like questions and stuff right to your phone. It's just that important. So I want to make it easy for you. I know we're like busy parents, but easy for you so you can know what to say. Okay, I'm picking my kid up from school and you need to know like what's been happening in the classroom because it ain't going to come home in the book bag. So you're trying to figure it out. And here are some questions that you can start to ask because I know sometimes we just don't, we just don't know. 02122 says critical race theory is an offspring of Karl Marx, who was ironically racist, hated Jews, blacks, and puppies. Yeah. Isn't it weird? Isn't it crazy? He was a ethnic Jew himself, but hated Jews. Grew up in a wealthy family, but hated wealthy people. Just weird. Just a psycho. And this is the guy whose ideas are like flourishing in the United States of America and in the West. It is just astonishing. Why? Because so many people were never taught this. So many people never had the curiosity to question these things and, kind of figure out like, okay, well, why are we believing this? And they just pushing it in the universities. They just love Marx. They just love him. They just want to like resurrect him. And I mean, they just have this weird, sick fascination with his ideas that absolutely suck. Much love from Houston. Hi, Victoria. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Scary stuff. Just read the biography of a Romanian lawyer living under communism. Victoria says, we think this could never happen to us. Exactly. That is why I am like, really focusing. Okay, we got to take matters into our own hands. We parents, we're going to have to teach our kids this stuff. We cannot rely on the school board. We cannot rely on the teachers. We cannot rely on, governors, presidents. We can't. We have to rely on our God-given talent as parents, as believers, as concerned citizens of the future of this country that our children will grow up in. If this is not a time for us to get serious about the next generation and who's going to be hovering over us, God forbid we're in a nursing home, and these kids who don't know how to think and don't know how to do anything watching over us, it's going to be some scary times. That's all I have to say. Let's see. It says she became a Christian many years ago under communism. Wow, that's a blessing. Victoria says they beat her up in multiple occasions and God made a way for her and her family. Yes, he will make a way. 02122 says he hated showers too, I heard, and that's why his ideas are filthy. He did. I heard that too. Like he was not well kept. He had terrible hygiene. We're talking about Karl Marx. But this guy, his ideas they are flourishing like never before. It is quite fascinating. But anyway, let me know, did you enjoy this? Please share this out. Like I said, I am going to be I'm in the process of creating this course. I'm really excited about it. So I shot some interactive videos. So there's some, I play the teacher and I have a student that plays a student, and we are going to show parents how to teach their kids how to respond in real time to teachers that are pushing critical race theory, that are pushing gender ideology. So in the classroom, they can literally, in a respectful way, we have it all laid out in these videos. I think it's pretty good. I think it'll be really helpful for kids to stand up for themselves, because we're not only teaching them, how to stand up for themselves against like the critical race theory and the gender stuff, but you're teaching them how to have a voice when somebody is doing something to them that is uncomfortable. When something, because thank you, JCL. Thank you. I really appreciate it. JCL says it was great. Thank you. We're teaching our children to be like, no, I that is, for A, that's not true. B, that it's uncomfortable for you to we go through how to respond. But anyway, I'm excited about it. And it'll be, I'm looking at the middle of January to release it. So just be on the lookout for that. And so it'll be, I think, a great course for parents. So thank you so much for watching. I will be doing more videos like this. This will be the beginning of just teaching how we help our kids to be upstanding citizens in the next generation. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, 02122, for moderating. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. Bye-bye. Bye, Instagram.